Good evening. Welcome to the Shrewsbury Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for Monday, July 28th. We're going to start out with a few housekeeping items. First is to review and sign a bill for $193.60 to the community advocate for the July 28th, 2025 legal notice. Can I get a motion, please?
I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, now we have the review and acceptance of 4 meeting minutes, starting with the June 29th, 2020 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the meeting minutes for all 4 of the meetings that are listed in the agenda.
Okay, that would include June 29th, September 28th, 2020, October 27th, 2020, and March 31st, 2025. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. So just to notify everyone in attendance, we do have a 4-member board this evening, which would mean that if you have an appeal in front of us, one no vote would represent a denial. So it's going to be up to you whether you want to proceed forward or continue until we have a full board. We would expect that to happen next month. So, all right. First hearing on our agenda. This is a continuation from our June 30th meeting. This is to hear the appeal of 525 Hartford Turnpike in the Limited Industrial District for a variance in section 7N3B 11B to exceed the maximum building height of 45 feet or 3 stories and allow 63 feet between buildings. I think I'm wrong on that.
In height.
Height. Sorry, you have to write everything for me. All right, so you understand the 4-member board situation,
Yes,
and you're comfortable to move forward?
yes.
Okay, great. If you could help us out with where we left off.
Sure, let me just get this screen share started.
And then would you, Mary Beth, have Fran
Mullins in?
Mullins in that he reviewed and watched last month's meeting?
Yep. All right, so in accordance with the Section 23D of the Massachusetts General Law, Fran Manella was not here at the last meeting, but he is going to certify that he's reviewed the evidence of the June 30th session and that he listened to the digital video recordings of the said hearing. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Fran? We're going to have to ask you to step forward and sign, as well as Fran. There we go.
Pen.
Yep, sure.
Oh, thank you. Do that next.
There you go. Thanks.
Thank you. And procedurally, if you could please state your name for the record.
Sure. Tom Corbett, Go Venture Capital Group, here for 535 Hartford Turnpike. Here with me tonight is Jack Denninger from Fuss & O'Neill. So at our last hearing, we had left at the end of the meeting asking for section views of the development from various locations to better understand impacts visually. We have submitted 8 drawings in total. There are 4 for each perspective, 2 different development standards, so the 5-story and the 3-story. We also heard a lot about traffic, some concerns around traffic and such that would be more of a planning board scope with the traffic study and through the full development phases. We also heard from the church, visuals are of concern. So we had a meeting with the church last Thursday just to kind of review their concerns and go over those. And I had printed out some larger plans and delivered those to the church on Friday for them to really take a better look at it and have it blown up in front of them and they can see it better versus tracking on the computer. So they have those plans, and we discussed a lot around screening, what we might be able to do, and again, kind of more of a planning phase item, and looking at that and really getting into the actual drawing of the project. Right now, we have conceptual renderings of both projects. Grading's not really fine-tuned whatsoever. So those items are more towards the final development of the site plan, and that's kind of what I relayed to the pastor on Friday, and committed to next time the survey crew's out there, I want to get all the mature trees located along that property line for the two upper driveways, so that way we can at least try to work that into the plan as best as possible, because right now we're currently showing about 10 feet from the edge of property to a wall, and then from our wall to the parking's another 10 feet. So the parking itself is about 20 feet off the property line right now as it stands. But like I said, we haven't really nailed down the footprint or anything like that. So moving forward from here, we would be looking to do that. I had asked the pastor to be open to open dialogue throughout this whole process as it continues, and that I would be back talking to them prior to any formal submittal to the planning board. I think that sums up pretty much everything. I can go through these sectionals if you'd like as well. So this first page kind of gives us a hold on one second here. First page gives us a view, well, the line of sight, right, for the views. So they're from various locations, one from Ashton Drive, another one from Farmington, one from the left side of the church that kind of cuts through where the concern is, where the entrance is on Sundays, on the middle driveway, as well as another view from Pleasant Hill, on the edge of Stony Hill. So here we have the 5-story view from the church here, which shows our massings compared to what's around us and the trees in the back. Proposed views. This is a 3-story. So this one here, as you can see, is about
Pardon me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Can we mic him somehow? I can't hardly hear what he's saying. Maybe stand up here and speak or something.
I can do a little bit better for you.
Crank it up, all right? Thank you.
Understood. So here we see a 3-story coming in around 605, and then the 5-story comes in around 615-ish, right around 612, showing you relative grades. And then we've got Ashton Drive. So this is looking from about the middle of Ashton Drive up to the project. So you're looking through that 5-story building here, looking over to the 5-story building here. Our property line is delineated here. Trees in between. Then we've got a 3-story rendering, and this 3-story is depicting the building that would be across the second wetland crossing, which is what we're trying to avoid here, because it is significantly higher in grade up there and does overall impact things more with the tree clearing. That little knob kind of creates a nice vegetated buffer in itself from up above. And then we've got Farmington here, looking up at the development, looking down at the development, sorry. And as you can see here, the topo kind of provides adequate screening, and the 3-story, same here as well. And this one's nice too. This one's from the Hartford Turnpike, essentially. So you're looking from Pheasant Hill through the points, and then you've got Route 20, then you've got our commercial building, then the pond itself, grade change up to the 5-story building. Same here with the 3. And anything to add, sir?
I think that covers it. So really, in summary, it's the 4 different views try to portray the 4 different viewpoints to the closest neighbors nearby and what those kind of visual impacts would be from a 3-story to a 5-story, and in certain instances, for instance, the one through Ashton Drive, there is a couple 100-foot section of wooded area that would need to be disturbed, that would be maintained in the 5-story option. So that the 2 additional stories would significantly reduce the impact. I mean, it's nearly over 100,000 square feet of disturbance less from the 5-story down to the 3-story. So the 4-building option to a 2-building option.
Okay. All right, thank you for all that, very helpful. Let's have the board's comments, questions, and then we'll move on to the public part of the hearing. Megan, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you for the sections. I asked for them last time, and they're very helpful to kind of illustrate the relationship of everything. So I think that, just my biggest concern was the Route 20 relationship, because the grade is so much higher. I do think there may be enough distance that we're gonna have, visually, it's not going to have as much of an impact, especially given that we're not taking as much footprint up, and disturbing as many wetlands. So thank you for that. And I'm also encouraged to hear that you had discussions with the church and you want to continue those discussions. I think that's really important in being a good neighbor. So as far as questions, I think the sections really answer all my questions. So I think I'm good other than that. So thank you for those.
Great. Ann?
Yeah, just one quick question. The height of the 3-story building versus the height of a 5-story building, it sounded like it was only 10 feet different. Was I mishearing, or how could that be?
Yeah, so when so we've got a peaked roof on the 3-story and a flat roof on the 5-story. So the way that it's measured is to the mean, or the median. And that is, the peak ends up being higher than a flat roof, obviously, with the way that the roof is set up, and that's the way that we would go with construction for cost of construction, with a 3-story versus a 5-story.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Fran, any questions? Okay. Anything from Louise or Chris?
No, I think we've answered most things. We did prepare a draft decision for the board's consideration this evening. We are proposing 2 conditions to address comments related to height, most notably related to the preservation of open space in relation to the variance request. So we've essentially proposing a 2-step kind of solution to this. That prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant would provide a final plan set to specify the proposed area to be preserved. That will allow during, some flexibility during the planning board process to really delineate that more closely. And then prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, appropriate documentation provided to this board in a manner they find acceptable, preserving that portion of land in accordance with condition 1 of that decision. So we leave the specific instrument open so they can consider all of their options, again, as this process evolves and they refine what that will look like. But it does require that it be protected, and it does require that it's protected in perpetuity as well, so.
Okay. Fabulous. Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
I think I'm good.
All right. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on this? If you could step forward, sir, state your name for the record, please, and your address.
Yes, my name is Steve White. I'm the property manager for Liberty Church, and we did have a phone call conversation with Tom and also Jason. This was on Thursday with myself, our lead pastor, and our executive pastor. Tom did bring by like 4 prints, but they're really not what we were looking for. We're looking for, this is showing a real close-up. We're looking for something up so we can see where this is with the building. So these plans are not really that good, what you gave us. But we're strongly against giving the approval of zoning change for the 5-story building without some kind of concession with the tree line, 20 or 30 feet of tree line. That doesn't necessarily apply down by the street because we have plenty of trees on our own property. So from the street up maybe to that lower lot, it doesn't matter to us, but obviously from our parking lot where we're gonna, right next door, we'll see, 60 some odd feet of a building 85 feet away. So we would recommend that you do not give the zoning change without some kind of better plan on the tree situation. And from what I gathered, it doesn't seem like you guys are looking to make any concessions on the trees, from what I gathered from that meeting, just so you know. So I don't know if we can postpone this to see if there's a better plan that show tree line, not just their shrubs and fence, which really won't do anything along, all the way along our property. So that's the church's position.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to review the topo drawings as it affects the sightlines from Liberty Church over?
Let me. Yep, so this is the sight line. So effectively, if you're standing in the back here of the building, where Mass would be, everybody would be entering Mass in there. We'd be looking to the east to the building here. And again, this is very conceptual, and that's more towards the point of picking up all the mature trees that are existing there today, to better understand what we could keep. I do understand that the entire lot next door at 495 has been cleared to the edge and in that vicinity, so there is no room on the church's side for trees. So that is something, again, as we continue through the development and preserving what trees we can and looking at pulling that back parking wise, where we end up total unit count, we don't know yet. So there's a lot of factors that are going to play into that, and it may be that we might be able to keep 25 feet in that section. We just don't know at this point in time.
Is it fair to say that you'll know as it proceeds through the planning board process?
That's correct, yeah. So once we get an answer out of this board, it drives the remainder of the development and really allows us to place the buildings and structure the parking accordingly. We'll get the architects involved who will narrow down the unit count, which will then impact our parking areas, which might possibly even reduce the parking areas now that we're showing here, pending what we can get for units.
Okay. All right. If you want to step forward, sir? Good evening. If you could state your name for the
Kevin
record.
O'Brien, 39 Farmington Drive, and I've met with you, Tom, at the neighbors meeting and all that. I don't have a real issue with the plan and the 5-story. The issue I have, and I think, Chris, I mentioned that before, is that parcel, the 0 Cherry Street parcel, that's not part of the overlay district. You're not planning on using that at all in this, so we're fine with that. The only thing I mentioned, Chris, to you was it'd be great is you just said a draft decision on the zoning board about talking about preserving the open space, the wetlands, whatever, in perpetuity, about maybe adding to that. Just they can't use this as just, because their road at the end of that second building that's up the highest there goes right into that other lot that's just the 7 acres undeveloped. It's zoned residential, but we all know that if they want to build a 40B project later down the road, it doesn't really matter. And I know that with some of these developments coming through, the town manager said it's possible we might hit that 40B threshold and not be subject to it, but that, he said it's really till like 2030, possibly 2032. So this is kind of a forward thinking, saying, hey, listen, you know what, we can kind of cut off some of the potential issues we might have that, down the road if we do hit that threshold, just by adding that into the draft decision. But overall, I don't have an issue with the 5-story, as long as that, you're not using that other residentially zoned piece of property, in the development. And it doesn't sound like you have any interest in that at all.
Through the chair?
Please.
Yeah. So the 0 Cherry Street property comes down on this photo here, and that the V on the top. So pretty much from the top of this page straight over, north of that is all residential.
It's residential, yeah.
There's 1.5 acres, maybe 2 in this V that are commercial, that we would be interested in if they wanted to for future parking maybe, but not part of the actual development of this plan right now. So it would be space set aside at best, but it's not something that we have site control on. And right now, the development is to do this here. We're purchasing 2 acres from the church. We have a purchase and sale from the church for 2 acres to add to this parcel.
All right, I didn't hear a hard
Which
no.
is-
I didn't hear a hard no, though.
But, well, I don't want to leave options
I
off
know,
the table,
I
but
understand
at the
where
same
you're coming
time,
from.
we would never be going any north than the commercial line, which is still another 5 acres on the other side of it.
Where was, can you go up there and point out where those 5 acres would be?
I can, if you don't mind. So, the property line for
Yeah.
the Zero Cherry goes like here.
Yeah.
So effectively here, there's a triangle. This is commercial. We've had discussions in the past with the landowner, don't get me wrong. But those haven't really gone anywhere. And it's, I believe there's since a purchase and sale on the property, so there is a gentleman that's looking to do something on that parcel. But this here, again, this would be of interest to me to like put this parking here in the future if we needed more parking, if we were to ask for relief on that through planning.
Because according to the town GIS, that's zone rural B.
It's limited industrial.
Just the bottom part.
Do you have
through
the
the chair.
survey? I think the survey may show it if you have that readily available.
So that's 7 acres, so how much is?
There's
zone-
about 2 acres that are in the light industrial.
2 acres, okay.
This triangle piece. But again, it's not something that I have desire in right
Yeah.
now. But I just want to keep an open dialogue and say that if anything were to happen, it would be in that tiny little portion, pretty much connecting
Okay.
orange and yellow up top there.
Has that been a
But
recent update?
the grades-
Because the last time I checked, the whole 7 acres was rural B.
Does your?
Yes.
That is, if you go on to the zoning map, you'll see that the light industrial cuts right through it.
Oh, really?
So it is 2 acres of land that the residential can't go into for residential purposes. It is light industrial, but again, the topo up there, at this top corner of the parking lot is a tough, the toughest probably topo wise. And going that way, again, that it would be really like leaving space on the plan for, we wouldn't be engineering it to the point of actually building it. Well, it would be a full engineer job, but it wouldn't be,
Yeah, I
building
mean,
it.
I understand, it's land that's there that at some point is gonna be developed. I'm just looking for hopefully some, just some safeguards maybe, that it does all of a sudden doesn't become, okay, we're gonna add a 40B with, 200 more apartments, and then in the way that the topography is that's kind of up a little, it kind of goes from my end of my backyard, it kind of goes up a little bit, it would be like hulking over my backyard there. So obviously I'm looking to hopefully try to mitigate some of that potential impact to myself, because I'm not really looking to move or all of a sudden have, an apartment in my backyard.
Right, but as a point of clarity, that isn't, the ownership of that
It's
is,
not yours. I know. I
Correct.
get that.
right,
So.
it's hard to have guarantees.
I know.
With
I know.
land.
I get it. I'm just saying, in terms of the draft decision that was, like you're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, as part of this, we're gonna preserve the wetlands, and this is a property that, is fine to be developed in this current, location in this lot right there. It's kind of what I'm asking for, Chris.
Through the chair?
Yes,
Just to be clear, it is a hard no on future housing on that parcel.
Okay.
A hard no on that.
Okay.
This is getting developed with the buildings effectively, hopefully where they are, standing here in this picture. And our desire is to keep it what's colored here.
Okay.
To have the open space. This is being efficient with our development and really reducing our impact. It's not, I don't want to increase our impact.
I understand.
Up north.
No, I
It's
think
just-
you're
I
trying
just
to do
don't
your best
wanna-
in good
I
faith.
don't wanna say a
But
hard
business
no.
conditions change and things happen, So.
okay, I think we got your,
Thank
we
you.
understand. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Okay. Can I, if we're all prepared to make a determination this evening, I'd need to ask for a closure of the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. Now, we do have some conditions that we're gonna need to place on this. I would just say for the record, in front of us is the height of the buildings. That's the conversation that we're having right now, so. All right, if I could proceed forward with a motion, please.
I make a motion that the Shrewsbury Zoning Board of Appeals vote to grant 2 variances from the Shrewsbury zoning bylaw under section 7NB11B to allow both proposed residential buildings to exceed the height and story requirement, 63 feet tall and 5 stories, when 40 feet and 3 stories is required, under property located at 525 Hartford Turnpike, as shown on the above-mentioned plans, or the plans that we have reviewed this evening, with the following conditions. Number 1, that prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide final plans which specify the proposed area to be preserved. And number 2, that prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, the applicant shall submit documentation to the board in a manner and form deemed acceptable to the board for preserving the portion of the land identified on the final plans as required by condition 1 of our decision. The instrument for preservation shall be effective in perpetuity.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You as well.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
7 o'clock. Short,
Sure.
stand up, walk around. I can't sit for 2 hours straight.
All right. Moving right along, this is to hear the appeal of Richard Ricker, Law Office at 11 Maple Ave in Shrewsbury for a variance to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7B, Table 2, to construct a 2-car garage 21.9 feet from the rear yard setback where 40 feet is required upon property located at 14 Edgemere Boulevard in the Residence B2 zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 57, Plot 05200. Good evening. If you could state your name for the record.
I would, on behalf of the client, we'd be requesting a continuance.
Thank you. Understood. Can I get a motion for continuation of this hearing?
No reflection on the board. It's just, you know,
We
it's a
understand.
variance. It's
I
in the
understand.
neighborhood. I mean, it hardly, it fades in comparison to what you just heard in terms of, you know, severity of variances, but.
So procedurally, he's requesting, we have a 4-member board.
Yeah, I'm asking for a continuance because it's a 4-member board, that's all.
I'm sorry.
He's asking for a continuation of the hearing until our next meeting.
Okay.
Date determined, we have to have the date on our decision, so that it would be a 5-member board.
Okay,
And that is his right to do that with a
That's
4-member
fine.
board. Okay, great. Can I get a motion, please?
No offense.
Before we do that, what's our August
I'm
date?
crushed.
Wait.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we continue the hearing for 14 Edgemere Boulevard until August 25th, 2025.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is to hear the appeal of Teresa Maldonado, 6 Torrey Lane in Shrewsbury, for a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 6, Table 1, for the use of a customary in-home business upon property located at 6 Torrey Lane in the Residence A zoning district. Subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 04, Plot 002006. Good evening. If you could state your name for the record, please.
Teresa Maldonado.
Good evening.
Elias Maldonado.
Welcome. If you could just let us know what you, what kind of business you are looking to open, and give us a little insight into that, please.
Well, I have a home bakery right now, so I'm just looking to be able to have customers come and pick up their orders instead of just delivery. I'm just doing deliveries right now.
So orders are placed online. Customers, we then make deliveries to customers. So we have a pretty good sized driveway where they could come up and pick up their orders. There would not really be any access into our particular home. It would just be for access for them to pick up their orders at our location. This would help us get to more customers in town and make it easier to drive more business.
Just to be clear, there's baking happening on site, or that's happening?
Yes.
That is, and we already have a special permit in place for that?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is simply for access, no parking, just come in, pick it up, leave.
Yep.
Understood. Okay. Anything else before we proceed and?
No, if you get a chance, you should try her cookies.
Yeah. Brought some. You know what they say. Sharing is caring. We would have
Yes,
appreciated
yes,
that, but
we didn't
that's
want to
okay.
bring anything as, you know, as a sign of coercion this evening, but
There you go.
we'll certainly
That's fair.
circle back.
They'll be waiting outside in a box. Okay, great. Wonderful, thank you. All right, if we could proceed forward with comments, questions?
I don't think I have any right now.
That's fine.
I'm good.
It's totally fine. Ann?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty straightforward. It's a special permit for the use of a customary in-home business. I think that a baking and food service, a business is a customary in-home business. It seems to be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw and tick all the other boxes, so I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
Fran?
I don't have any comment.
Okay.
You need a motion?
The only comment I would have in the past, and I'm not suggesting, so I'm just throwing it out there for discussion, is often we'll put a timeline on it in case there's a problem with the neighbors, so that they can come back in front of us in a year or 2 years, just to, and I think that might be a good thing in this case, just to protect the neighborhood and make sure that we're staying on top of
A
things.
year or review, or
I think a year review is fair.
a year?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Oh, Chris? Louise?
That's fair.
Yeah.
And we typically with in-home businesses have, you know, the usual conditions that the home occupation is conducted by a resident of the premises, clearly incidental to the secondary use, and not in excess of 25% of the floor area of any one floor, and then not more than 2 persons other than the residents of the premises are regularly employed in connection with such use.
Are you suggesting those are conditions on our, okay, do we have that?
Those are in the comment letter. Those are-
Okay,
Yeah.
those are fair. You understand all of this?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. Well, if there's no further comments from the board, no further comments from, okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard in this matter? If you could step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Sure, it's Cheryl Brooks, 5 Torrey Lane. I just want to speak in support of this. It was mentioned that, putting in some clause in case the neighbors have an issue. I live directly across the street. Our house would be more impacted than any other house in the neighborhood, and we fully support what they're doing. So, just want to go on record for that.
Very helpful, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for your time. Anyone else wishes to be heard? All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Do we have your conditions?
I am having electronic
us one
problems
second.
at the moment, sorry.
Let me see if I can dig them up.
It's not even.
We rely heavily on Google Drives, and sometimes they get
Yeah.
funny. So let's see if I can find it.
Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion?
I make a motion that the board allow the special permit requested at 6 Torrey Lane, Residence A District. Applicant is Teresa Maldonado for a special permit for Section 7, Table 1, for the use of a customary in-home business.
Section 6.
Sorry, I
Yep.
correct myself. Section 6, with the following condition that we review this again in 1 year. Okay.
And then
Other conditions?
And
on
the
there?
other conditions,
Keep going.
there we go. That the profession or customary home occupation is conducted by a resident of the premises, number 1. Number 2, that the use is clearly incidental to and secondary to the use as a residence and not in excess of 25% of the floor area of any one floor. And number 3, not more than 2 persons other than residents of the premises are regularly employed in connection with such use.
Didn't we want to add a condition for review in a year?
We just did.
We just did?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm good.
Can I get a second?
Yep, I'll second.
A second, okay. We're all about seconds tonight. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
All right, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll pick up the cookies on our way out.
Yeah, you can leave the cookies out front.
Okay. Would a brief break now be helpful before we get into?
You want to do that now?
Yes.
I would.
So we're going to request just a 5-minute break for some of our senior members that need a little ambulatory help, and then we'll pick it right back up.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You depart before
Okay.
you claim safe harbor?
Picking
Yes.
back up, this evening we have a continuation from the June 30th meeting. This is to hear the appeal of 104 Main Street, a limited commercial business, the Quinn LLC, for a comprehensive permit under Mass General Law, Section 40B, Section 20-23, to permit the construction of a 300-unit multifamily residential development. Okay, thank you for the additional information, and I will turn it over to
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Mark Donahue on behalf of Quinn LLC with me this evening. from Saxon Partners is Dave Calhoun and Jack Leffel, who you met last time, and Phil Cadero of Allen and Major is the civil engineer. As the schedule set forth in our last meeting, this meeting is focused on civil engineering type issues. That'll be stormwater, grading, drainage, landscaping, those type of issues. We have the benefit of a review letter received today from Graves Engineering, and thank Mr. Walsh for that. We really haven't had a chance to caucus as a team with regard to the merits of that. We will probably meet offline and discuss those with Mr. Walsh and work toward a written response that we can submit for a future meeting for review of that. But certainly welcome the opportunity to touch on any issues that Mr. Walsh believes are pertinent to part of our discussion. With your permission, what we'd like to do is have Mr. Cadero review with you some slides that lay out the issues around civil engineering, as that term is used in a general fashion. And obviously, the board can feel free to interrupt as it goes on if it has any particular questions or concerns.
I do have a point of procedure here. We do have a member that needs to mullins into this hearing, and I apologize for not addressing that up front if I could
That's fine.
for a moment.
Sure.
Okay, this is in accordance to Section 23D of the Mass General Law. This is stating that Fran Manella certifies that he has reviewed evidence received from the June 30th meeting, and that he's reviewed, including a digital video recording of said hearing. Mr. Manella, if you could sign that, please.
This is true.
Okay. Sorry for that.
No worries.
And
Thank
if
you
I
for
could
doing
have
that,
a
Mr.
representative step forward to sign it, I would appreciate that.
Miller. Sure.
Phil?
No, Dave.
I better change the name then.
Okay, that's all right.
Ooh, I thought mine was bad.
Thank you.
You're a doctor, huh?
Okay. Sorry about that. If you could proceed forward.
Thank you. Phil?
Okay, anything you want to add, Dave?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Good evening. For the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. Thank you for having us again this evening. As Mark pointed out, I would just like to walk through the details of the site portion of the application, entertain any questions that this board may have. We also, as Mark alluded to, we now have the benefit as of today, Jeffrey has been able to give us our initial peer review, so we have some technical comments that we can walk through. But really the goal tonight is for me to provide you with the additional detailed information, whereas the last meeting was really a pretty high-level overview in terms of what the project is and how the site is being put together. So if you'll indulge me, we did put together the slideshow this evening. The stakeholders obviously remain the same, so I'll just jump beyond those. And the site locus map, as you can see on the screen and the PowerPoint printout materials in front of you, obviously, again, as a reminder, 104 Main Street, bounded by Main Street and Quinsigamond. What I would like to share with the board, just to get everybody reacclimated, this is the point that may come up later on, is I went through and I gathered some historical aerial photographs of the site to remind the board what the property looked like in its early stages of development. So this plan, or this image, is orientated with Quinsigamond along the bottom of the page and Main Street sort of running lower left corner to upper right corner, just to orientate you to the plan. This plan goes back to 1960, so it's before the highway got installed. The site was by and large manipulated, and you can actually see the darkened area on the plan is actually a collection of water. And that came up during our meeting with the neighbors. Somebody had asked about whether there was a water body there before, and there was a collection area back in the 60s. But as I advance it through and I jump into 1971, when 290 got constructed, and you can now see that on the right side of the screen going page up to page down, they infilled that area. And the entirety of the site was by and large infilled with materials that were pertinent to the construction of 290. So we were sort of ancillary to the cause. In 1980, you can see the site starting to stabilize itself. It's empty. Vegetation is starting to grow in, but is pretty much the same. In 2001 is when you started getting some clearing of materials on site. Some of the early gravel paths were installed, and you can see some vehicles and some staging. along the Quinsigamon side and deeper into the site. And then in 2010, the imagery gets a little clearer. The expansion of use gets a little bit larger, and the amount of land that's being utilized a little bit bigger still. And then that jumps us into the image we did share with the board at the last meeting, which is from around 2024. And you can see there's a large area of general storage of vehicles, ground boxes, a couple of small shed buildings on site, general sort of industrial storage, if you will. And that'll take us into the site plan as we've prepared the existing conditions portion of it. We did resurvey the property. So everything that we're presenting through the board, through the application, is based on the current conditions. And the survey that you see is an attempt to not only depict the current conditions of the land, but we've also identified the amount of parking that exists on site. We estimate there's about 83 trailer spaces. These are, of course, unmarked. This is not a striped parking lot, but based on the historical records, we're trying to determine how many parking spaces are available on the property and what was it being used for, and we've identified about 83. Similarly, there's a smaller amount of pedestrian cars on the slide on the screen, generally shown in the green, about 11, so sort of supporting vehicles to the truck delivery that was taking place. And then the remainder of it, everything within the tree line, is a cleared and compacted gravel area. So the site is most definitely not in a natural state. It's been manipulated several times over its lifespan, up to and including now with its current activities. I wanted to bring some street level imagery to the board's attention, just to again focus you on where the site is. The image on the lower left is on Quinsigamon looking north. The site is to the right of it, so generally along this side of it is indicated by the arrow. And then on the right image, the lower right image, that's from the intersection at Main Street in Quinsigamon looking back to the site. So now the site is moved to the left, just so you can give a general sense as to where that site is located relative to the adjacent roadways. Flipping to the other side, lower left imagery is along Main Street, and the site is on the left side of the image. And the right side image, a little bit dated, but by and large is still the same, is from the off-ramp, from the 290 off-ramp, literally directly across the site is what you're seeing. And then one more image now, right at the intersection, sort of splitting the baby down the middle. On the left would be Main, on the right would be Quinsigamon, with the site being the treed area in between, hidden behind those signals. This is the development plan we presented to the board at the last meeting. As a refresher, it is the 5-story building with 300 units and a 4-story garage with 5 levels of parking, one of them being on the ground level.
Excuse me, one second.
Yes.
Would you just explain how this will, it may not marry up with the paper in front of them?
Yes, I apologize. So the slides that I'm going to walk through, images are going to appear as I'm focusing on different methods of talking. The slides that are printed in front of you basically has the massive information on them. So they may not translate cleanly, but I'll do my best to walk through the details. As we're talking through the site design, key elements that we needed to focus on were the access to the property, which in this case is directly off of North Quinsigamon. We have 2 site driveways, both of them are 24 feet wide. They accommodate ingress and egress, and they are largely driven by the needs of fire apparatus to be able to get in and around the site as part of our public safety and public safety study. Excuse me. The distance to the northerly entrance is also born from the distance to the intersection. We need to ensure under the traffic study that will be a future discussion, we made sure that our entrance does not conflict with the expected stacking of vehicles at that intersection, at that signal. The other intersection is the other site driveway is then driven by a portion of land that is located along Quinsigamon that we do not own. It's part of the Town of Shrewsbury Water Department, and it's a bifurcation of land that was created when 290 got constructed. So it's a sliver piece of land shown in blue on the slide that actually extends on the other side of 290. We do not have rights to pass over that land, even though the current use does pass over that land. So that's what dictated where our driveway locations are. As a reminder to the board, we do not have rights of access to Main Street on Plan North. That is a state highway layout. It's designated as no access because of the conflagration of the exit ramp to 290. So they do not want additional curb cuts anywhere along the Main Street side of our site. Obviously on Plan Right, we directly abut the elevated portion of Route 290 with steep slopes coming into the site. So our only access to the property, to the public right-of-way is through Quinsigamond, despite the property having a Main Street address. When we get into the detail of the site, we want to identify for you how the parking and circulation will function for the project. What we've submitted on the application is a two-tier type of parking situation. One is a combination of on-site surface parking spaces, 121 to be specific, and then we have 332 garaged parking spaces amongst those 5 levels that I referred to. In those spaces, they will abut minimum drive aisles. For the surface parking, it's 24 feet, which is what the town of Shrewsbury requires. So we do have that throughout the entirety of the site. And certainly, again, accommodatable for the fire access vehicles, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. We do have ADA spaces that are both accounted for on the surface and that will also be located in the garage. And new information as of today, one of the comments through staffing, the staff letter, and then also through Graves Engineering is identification of where those ADA spaces are so we can really reinforce that we are conforming with the regulations. We'll certainly provide that. We will also have electric charging stations throughout the site, and those will be in accordance with the stretch code requirements. We do not have them designated on the plans, but we are affirming that we understand that those are a requirement and those will definitely be added. One other element that we've added to the site plan is directly in front of our clubhouse area, which is in the main parking field, is we do have one open space which we are terming a multi-use space. It allows for high turnover vehicles to quickly park when coming onto the site. Uber Eats, FedEx, Lyft, residents that may get a quick pickup from family members. It could also be used as loading spaces. It could be used as an aggregation for school children for a bus, should that come into the site. It's really a multi-purpose space that's provided directly in front of the building. So that way one of the accounted for spaces is not taken up by those other uses. Another feature that we've added to the site in the northeast corner of the site is the notion of banked parking. We have 17 parking spaces that are constructible on site, but in an effort to limit the amount of impervious cover on the property, we would seek the board's permission to reserve the right to build those only if we need them. Said differently, we believe we have adequate parking on the property, but there is room for some more. And if we need the additional, we would build out those 17 reserved spaces. We've also accommodated where we do not have a 24-foot drive aisle around the building. We have accommodated a fire access road, which will be minimally 20 feet in width, which is required under the NFPA code. And that's what's shown on the screen in the red, which circumnavigates the northerly portion of the building. That will not be accessible by our residents. It will be signed for emergency vehicles only, but it will be paved. It will be paved with porous asphalt at the request of the fire department, so it may read as an extension of the roadway, but we will sign it to limit our vehicles from going in there. It would only be authorized vehicles only, but we want to make sure the entirety of the building is accessible, again, as part of our life safety study. The other element that we note on the layout plan, and we acknowledge for the board, and this also came up in the peer review letter that we will respond to in writing, is the notion of snow storage. We obviously have a site that is by and large, it's either parked or it's building. We will add annotations to the plans to designate where initial snow storage will be kept on the property. But what we've also provided on the site plans, and we would ask for a condition of any permit to be issued, is the responsibility of the owner that should the site reach capacity in terms of its snow storage, we need to remove that snow from the site. Mass DEP has written a policy that snow can only be deposited in areas that is accepting of additional snow. So we can't take the snow and put it in the lake across the street. It has to go to an acknowledged location, and these owners, as operators of the property, have acknowledged that and would accept that. The next level that we want to speak about once we get through the vehicle is our pedestrian connectivity. We are obviously adding 300 residential units to the community of Shrewsbury, and we want to make sure that the residents of the project, of the Wheelock, can be accommodated in a number of different ways and have choices in terms of their ability to maneuver around the site. So the first statement we'll make in terms of the site plan that you have in front of you is that the site is fully ADA compliant. None of our grades exceed the tolerances under the Accessibility Code or the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. So any point to the site is accessible to any other point on the site. We will introduce full sidewalks along the front of the building, designated on the screen in red. Obviously, that is a means for our residents who are parking on the surface or any visitors coming to the site to directly access all points of the building. Obviously, anybody parking within the garage would have direct access to the building itself. We are promoting a crosswalk from our front amenity center for connectivity out to Quinsigamon. We want these residents to be able to leave the property. Quinsigamon currently has a sidewalk along it. It's an asphalt sidewalk. There is also asphalt sidewalk along Main Street. And we certainly understand the sidewalk expansion program that the town of Shrewsbury has undertaken. We want to be able to integrate into that pedestrian connectivity that the town is seeking. We also understand that once we provide the connection to Quinsigamon, we have walking distance for the residents of the Wheelock to be able to go over to Gouch Park, which is an area that we're certainly studying and working to partner with the town on, maybe making some improvements to Gouch Park. But we have direct proximity to it, as you can see on the screen, and we would expect our residents to be able to take advantage of that park as new residents to the town of Shrewsbury. Maybe a little less sexy, but not less necessary. In the northeasterly corner of the property, we do have a dumpster and a recycling center with a compactor. We do anticipate that our residents will bring their trash to the center, the trash center, where they will deposit, and routinely we will remove the trash from the site. Everything within there will be fully enclosed through a screened fence, so that way there is no wind-blown trash debris all over the site. Everything will be wholly self-contained, and that will be removed on a recurring basis.
Quick question, just,
Yes,
is that the
please.
blue arrow?
The blue arrow is the connective direction to get to the dumpster. The dumpster is the shaded area right on the screen right here. What we've also provided is there is a parking space next to it. We do anticipate that there will be occasions where the residents will deposit their trash as they're leaving the site, so they may park next to it. So we have provided a parking space. One of the comments that we did receive from your peer reviewer is we may need to accommodate more than one, and we don't want those cars queuing within the drive aisles. We will look into that, and you'll hear more about that likely at the next iteration of the meetings. We obviously have some large areas between the legs of the building and the building itself that do have to be programmed. I'll defer this information to the architectural design, but I do want to identify to the board that the building will be provided with a clubhouse, which will likely have a fitness center, communication space, workspace, etc. And then on the outside will be courtyard space, sitting area, pools, fire pits, gas grills, and other common space amenities that you would anticipate a 300-unit development to have. Those are generally depicted in the green green areas. As I mentioned, we do have sidewalks along Quinsigamond, so the owner is also actively in discussion with the town for the ability to replace the sidewalks along Quinsigamond. Several areas are in disrepair. So we are anticipating replacing those sidewalks as part of the overall mitigation for this project, and will just enhance for the residents of Shrewsbury as well as the new residents for the wheel lock. So we will coordinate that as this project moves forward. We've had an initial meeting with the town engineer who would be in favor of this, who would also allow the operators of the wheel lock to remove snow, take care of the grass strip adjacent to it, work that's generally within the right-of-way of Quinsigamond. This applicant would take on the responsibility of doing as part of the uplift and the upkeep for this project. We're also under discussions with Mass DOT, as well as the town, putting them on notice that on the area shaded along the side of Main Street, we would like also the opportunity to take care of that zone too, possibly add a sign, a gateway sign, possibly introduce some landscaping, but take care of the arrival experience for the residents coming off of 290 at the off-ramp at Main Street, and create a sense of arrival to the wheel lock, as well as the town. So those are additional considerations that are being undertaken by the applicant. Our next level of site planning and design, largely driven here, is fire access and safety. Before we applied to the zoning board, we met with the fire department several times, and we are certainly in receipt of their comments through the application portal online. So we will provide written responses to all of their comments. But by and large, our site design and layout is driven by the opportunity for the fire department to have access to all points of the building, all points of the garage, the entirety of the surface parking area. And we will reiterate that through the response to comments to their portal comments. So a little redundant, but I'll point out again the porous asphalt roadway at the fire department's request, which gives them full access to the entirety of the building, so that we'll be able to circumnavigate around the building. The blue path then allows Tower 1, which is the largest piece of equipment that Shrewsbury has, to circumnavigate around the entire perimeter of the building as shown on the screen. The site design can actually also accommodate Tower 1 to go within the smaller parking area directly in front of the building. Still Tower 1, still accommodatable, so they can use their largest piece of equipment should they need to undertake any rescue at any floor of the building as they see fit. We did also provide for them a turning radius plan for Engine 3, which is a smaller response vehicle. While that could still circumnavigate around the entirety of the site, the fire department asked us to give them a turnaround at the, we'll call it the dead end where the trash and recycling center is, so that Engine 3 or smaller vehicles would not have to go around the entirety of the site. They could enter to the garage, they could turn around at the garage, and they could leave back out to Quinsigamond. So they have multiple levels of access around the building here. We've also provided additional hydrants for them. The 3 darkened yellow circles on the plan are new hydrants that we will install to make sure that there's adequate coverage on site. The faded circle is an existing hydrant on Quinsigamond that obviously the fire department will have access to. Wherever a hydrant is shown on these plans currently, we are designating it as schematic. Quite frankly, wherever the fire department wants the hydrants, we will put the hydrants. So we will continue working with them as we go through the final detail. Our next level gets into the stormwater management of the site. And we want to provide as much detail as this zoning board is willing to listen to, but we think a lot of the information is going to come from Graves Engineering in terms of flipping through the 2-inch thick binder of drainage calculations. But I'll give you the overview. The too long didn't read Reader's Digest. We have some drinking water wells on either side of the site. As a consequence, we are part of the Zone 2 to the wells. So we have aquifer protection overlay interests here. And while I can walk through the board all of the individual requirements, by and large, the development within the overlay is allowable by special permit so long as we provide artificial stormwater recharge, which is what we are doing here on this site. As long as we recharge the stormwater to ground, we treat it, coverage can exceed a 15% limitation, which is the base condition within the aquifer. We are obviously exceeding that, but our stormwater calculations will prove that we can exceed that while providing the right level of recharge of stormwater on the property. In addition to that, all of the individual criteria, the design criteria of the aquifer are met. Some of those elements are designing for a 25-year storm, whereas we're designing for a 100-year storm. What does that mean? The number of storm is the anticipated rainfall that's likely to occur within 24 hours on any given frequency. Obviously, numerically, a 25-year storm is less than a 100-year. So we are taking it upon us to make sure that our systems can accommodate the larger rainfall amounts, utilizing the most recent climate data for the town of Shrewsbury and for stormwater assessment. Generally speaking, under existing conditions, the stormwater flows from the high point at Route 290. It travels along the blue arrows on the screen. It collects into a couple of sort of amorphous depressions that are on site, designated by those blue cloud areas. And then when those depressed areas fill up, they overtop the little depressions and they continue flowing downstream, and they actually flow out to North Quinsigamond, where they get picked up by part of the town's stormwater system. So that is the basis of our design that we've put forth in our calculations. It's also the mandate under which we have to do our analysis. We have to provide calculations to say to you, to your review consultant, how much water is leaving the site today, and we are mandated by the stormwater calculations that we cannot exceed that under either the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook or the Town of Shrewsbury requirements. So I'm here to state that we are designing to make sure we do not exceed the peak rates of runoff for both rate and volume. So the rate is how fast the water is leaving, the volume is how much water is leaving. So when we're taking a site that, even though it's compacted gravel in large areas, we do still have some woodland condition on the property, we are converting it to building and pavement, which increases the amount of water that wants to leave. We're going to create some holdback systems that make sure the speed and the volume are less than what exists at that red dot today. So the shaded areas are on the screen surrounding the building, I guess on the easterly portion of the building, the southerly portion, and then sandwiched underneath the parking field. Those are all subsurface retention areas. So all of our stormwater, anything that touches the building or the paved surfaces, will be collected through a catch basin, and they will ultimately flow into those underground stormwater systems. Before getting there, they will receive water quality treatment. We have devices that will be installed that the stormwater runoff will have to flow through, which will receive sediments, pollutants, total suspended solids, before that water is allowed to enter into our subsurface systems, which will then recharge into the ground. The ability to recharge stormwater here is limited, given the history of the site, given the nature of the existing soils. So when these systems reach capacity, they will overflow in a controlled fashion, and that excess water will then discharge back to the red dot, which is where the water wants to leave the site today. Now, a portion of the site is also impacted by runoff from the highway. So Mass DOT has left us a very large slope along the easterly portion of the site, which runs off water from 290. That flows directly onto the property. That water is going to bypass our systems. We're going to collect it. There is a stone trench that's going to be installed on the southerly portion of the property that's going to divert that water, put it into a pipe, bypass it around our development, and then release it back into the municipal system, which is where it's going today. All totaled, with our reduction with the underground chambers and the stone trench, again, we're not exceeding those rates of development. We always want to look for opportunities for low-impact development. The site here doesn't lend itself to a lot of sprawling rain gardens and water quality swales, unfortunately, so I would term this as more conventional drainage. However, we do have our porous asphalt on site, which is part of the fire access road. So any water, any rain that falls from the sky that lands on that will directly go through the porous asphalt. There are several layers of media underneath it that treat that stormwater and recharge that directly to the ground, directly to the aquifer, in accordance with the aquifer protection guidelines. Necessary is utilities. We have been working with the engineering department and the water and sewer department. We had a meeting with them between our last meeting and this one to coordinate with them how the utilities will work on this site. There is a sewer trunk line, an 8-inch PVC, that runs in Quinsigamond. We presented to the town engineer that we will solicit for 4 individual connections into that sewer line. Each portion of the building will have a direct discharge into the sewer main, and the reason for that is it allows us to keep those sewer pipes high rather than artificially deepening the system. Paraphrasing, the town engineer did not see a problem with that in terms of access to the sewer main. We are aware of, through the town engineer's comment letter in our meeting, the Holden Street pump station, which is across the intersection, is under an administrative consent order. They're currently assessing some upgrades that need to be done to the Holden Street pump station. We are aware of that. We are also aware that the town has submitted a report to Mass DEP that is currently under review that proposes certain changes. Once we start getting some feedback, we, in this case is the town, we will re-engage with the engineering department on the ultimate connectivity and the discharge of the sewage into the system that will ultimately flow through the Holden Street pump station. They have indicated that even though the sewage from this area of Quinsigamond goes through a series of pump stations, the Holden Street is the only one that has a capacity issue at the moment that they are actively working to resolve. The timing of that resolution may work just fine relative to the occupancy of this building post-construction. Similarly, there's a water main in the street. It's in Quinsigamond. It's a 10-inch ductile iron pipe. We will seek dual connection into that, coordinating that with the water department, 1 fire service line, 1 domestic service line. Very perfunctory, but we will work with the town on solving those challenges. As I mentioned, we do have ECV not designated on the plans, but an acknowledgement that it does need to be completed. The purple on the plan on the screen is out. Yes,
Sorry,
please.
can you just say what ECV is?
Oh, electric car charging stations for electric vehicles. The stretch code that the town of Shrewsbury has adopted requires a certain percentage of our spaces to be accommodatable for electric car charging stations, a portion of which will be available at first occupancy, a portion of which will be expandable for future use should the needs grow. Sorry for acronyms, I assume too much. On the screen is designation of where our site lighting is presently. We provided a photometrics plan in the package. All of our site lighting is LED. It is low voltage, high efficiency. It is dark sky compliant. It'll be on a phasing diagram where we will endeavor to dim certain lights if it does not jeopardize pedestrian safety to do so. What's not shown in the plan is there would certainly be some lighting on the building, some wall sconces, and there'd certainly be some access lighting into the garage. That information will be provided with the building details. We also acknowledge our need for coordination with Selco, the Shrewsbury Electric Light Company. We have anticipated multiple transformers will need to be located on site. We have those designated on the screen in terms of the approximate location. While we'd love to hide these better, we still need to make sure they're accessible from Selco. We will coordinate with them in terms of the electric needs for the building, and we will obviously put in the right equipment. Anything that we do on site will be entirely underground in terms of conduit, no overhead wires once we come out of these transformers. We do have the benefit of some staff comment. The town planner had provided us some initial staff comment through the portal, and I just want to touch upon a couple of them ever so quickly. These will follow up in writing as formal responses to comments to document this information. Some of these comments also came from the town engineer. So the first one is we do have some retaining walls noted on the property. We obviously have no access to the right-of-way that's adjacent to 290, which is the slope, which is higher than the site. We also have that small piece of water department land that we have no access to. So our grading has been limited, and it has forced us to include a couple of retaining walls on the property. So the question that came up was constructability. And what we'll provide you in the details is the snapshot images that are on the lower left and the lower right of the screen. Where we have the taller wall, which is along the Route 290 side, it'll be about 8 feet in height. We actually only have about 7 feet to work with. So we would endeavor to install what's called a gravity retaining wall. For those not familiar, gravity retaining wall is just very large brick. They rely on the weight of the bricks themselves, the blocks, to hold up whatever the earth is behind it. Those blocks tend to be about 48 inches deep, but they do not require any work to be performed on the state land, of which we may not have access. But we could construct the retaining wall. Similarly, but to a smaller scale, the land that abuts the Shrewsbury Water Department, we have about 3.5 feet, where we need about 4 feet of wall height. We can do a smaller segmental block retaining wall. These are more of the landscape blocks that the board may be familiar with, where we can go about 4 feet without the need to do any geogrid reinforcing or tiebacks or any access into the town's land to support those retaining walls. Now, anything we do relative to walls, and this was a comment from the town engineer, has to be duly engineered by structural engineers. Those records, those applications, those calculations will go through the building department as part of the building permit review process. So we'll make sure those calculations are adequately provided. The walls, the imagery that's on the screen on your packet, just for reference, that is not the wall material was selected. We still need to go through, choose colors, materiality, things like that. It's just for graphical reference. Another element is we obviously have the abutters across Quinsigamond. There was the request to make sure those abutters are labeled by name and by distances on our plans, which we will do. The slide is to generally depict to the board how far away our closest abutters are to us, which range generally from 148 feet to 372 feet for the actual physical structure on those properties across Quinsigamond. We will make sure that information is provided to the board. There was also the comment regarding a loading area for move-in purposes, and I referenced the board again back to that flex space that we're creating along the front of the site, which is that can be used for a multitude of purposes, including a coordinated delivery of furniture, move-in information, etc., that the owner can coordinate that space is reserved and the information and the materials, whatever it happens to be, can be brought into the building without interfering with any parking or circulation around the property or to the access points, the garage, the site entrances, and so forth. That sort of concludes. I'll take a deep breath, field any questions that the board may have on that level of detail. I do have all of the engineering drawings on my slide deck. We can certainly talk about them. I'm sure the board will probably want to entertain some commentary from your consultant Graves here this evening, sort of hear it from their words rather than my long-winded dialogue, and start answering some of these questions in terms of how this site came to pass and can function.
That was very good.
Okay.
Did that without a breath.
One long inhale, now a deep pause.
That was very good. All right. Where do we begin? Do we need any information up front before we start the dialogue? Any?
So our office developed a comment letter, which is alluded to, and based on the information that was provided to date. So I think those kind of speak for themselves. I don't need to reiterate them in this process. Given some of the information that's provided this evening, anticipate we'll probably have some additional comments related to some of the representations made this evening, and some of the kind of site work. In addition to that, we do have the peer review comment letter that was provided. Jeff Walsh is here to speak to that. And we're, I've skimmed it, but we're still kind of going through that as well ourselves, as that was received recently. So, I think that's the bulk of what we have for this evening, and I'm happy to kind of go through as the discussion evolves.
Okay. All right, where to begin? Does anybody want to go first?
Yeah, if I could.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
I have a question for staff. So I'm interested in the easement, the town of Shrewsbury little triangle. Is there any chance that we could grant an easement to make a driveway there or for any other purposes? Or what is, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it is specifically held for water department purposes, so we would not be allowed to grant any access or vehicular access. I understand that there is one that is currently existing there, but we do not have a mechanism that we would be able to provide that at this time. So part of that concern that was alluded to in terms of the retaining walls, they're very close to the property line. And again, I understand that the retaining walls themselves do not require any grading or easements to that, but to the extent that the site work may need some, typically you'll have a temporary grading easement on the other property in order to accommodate the construction of that wall. So that has not been explored at this point, and so we're just trying to figure out the logistics of that, if that's feasible, and if there's any other requirements to accommodate that. In addition, the retaining wall on the 290 side, we see this evening that there's also the proposed stone trench for the stormwater collection from 290. So how that would factor in, that appears to be on MassDOT and would likely be in coordination with MassDOT. But again, the logistics of that without any easements shown, I think that would probably have to be acquired.
I have a question about that parcel. Was that when they were picking up pieces of land that had no history? What's the history of that easement, of that little blue area? Has the town always owned it?
As it was part of I believe it was part of the 290s, the Route 290 implementation, and then was deeded to the town for, specifically for water and sewer purposes.
Got it, okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, it's timely. You had asked about the retaining wall, and Chris had made mention about, the retaining wall along the water department land. I do want to add this technical detail. On our plans, I just alluded to in the presentation that a retaining wall is 4 feet in height. There is a spot of that particular retaining wall that is taller than that. I just fully transparent. The reason I didn't focus on it is the necessity of a wall at that height in that location is because there's some topo piles in that location. And technically speaking, if we can't remove that dirt, we need to hold it up and we may need a taller wall. So we would love the opportunity to coordinate with the town that as this project moves forward, maybe to remove that stockpile that would no longer be necessary. It's there pertinent to its current use, and it results in shortening that retaining wall, making it much more constructible. But we do need to determine the rights of access and our ability to do that under agreement with the town.
Yes.
Madam Chair, one of the items that we were talking to town management about is obviously between our landscape and the town sidewalk, the back of the sidewalk there, we're gonna do all this beautiful landscape inside, and all of a sudden we've got this area that's no man's land. It's actually the town's. One of the requests, and the other request we're chasing with the state is, can we take over that land between us, whether it's a license or some type of an agreement where we can landscape it, maintain it, pick up the trash, mow the lawn, irrigate it, so that it looks better all along that sidewalk. And that's where we got into the recommendation that the town team already made was, the sidewalks don't look great. You're probably gonna make them worse with your trucks and your connections and everything. Would you undertake the replacement of the sidewalks along North Quinsigamond? And that's one of the things that Phil just alluded to that we're looking to do. The discussion was more on the curb. What type of curb? Is it asphalt, et cetera? So those conversations will happen with management and hopefully we can report more back to you in next meeting.
While we're on that subject, when you talk about the replacement of the sidewalks, how far down are we talking?
It's a long run. It's all the way down the blue line on drawing.
Is it that full length of the blue line that you're proposing?
Yes,
So like up to 290,
Once you get to 290, that's where it ends.
correct.
the corner.
Okay, thank you. Removes one of 20 questions I have for you. That's good.
So just in relation to that, I just want to remind the board that our complete streets improvements are slated to be completed this fall and spring, next spring. Those end slightly before the USPS site, so this would not connect to those improvements. There would still be a gap that remains in front of the USPS site. So in relation to the pedestrian connectivity off-site and larger, we are looking, our recommendation or request would be to extend that further to connect to those existing improvements that are planned to be implemented shortly.
Yeah, that would be good. All right. Fran, you look like you have a hot question.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, why don't you go first?
I'd like to comment, first a comment. I would like that the applicant, when they submit any more of these conceptual plans, I want to see the finished floor of the building. I want to see the finished floor of the garage, first floor. I want to see some spot elevations around. Because I can't, this is all well and good. What's a finished floor? I don't know. I think that should be on every submission, quite frankly. Has anybody looked at how many school students will be created by the mix of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
If it's okay?
Yes, please.
We have, and actually that was a conversation that happened very early on with the Towns team.
I can't hear.
And that was happened very early on with the Towns team, in that they wanted us to try to focus the project more on professionals, retirees, that type of thing. So the unit mix was changed. We went from an awful lot of 2-bedrooms to some studios, which the state said is acceptable, and we drastically increased the number of 1-bedrooms. There are only 33-bedroom units on the property. That's required by state law.
Sure.
So that, we reduced the number.
So we think 100 school children, 200 school children?
I don't think you're going to see hardly any.
Somebody knows that
Yes, sir.
number. There's a way to
Thank you.
project it.
Fran,
We can look at some data.
Respectfully.
Madam Chair, I always recommend that boards avoid the topic of school-age children and the impacts it's going to have on your schools, because it's not a legitimate issue that's in front of this board as part of this application
I'm not-
process. And it can lead you down a path where you would actually subject yourself to a fair housing claim. So I don't think it's something
But
the board should.
I'm misunderstanding. I don't care how many kids there are per se. I don't care about the load on the school. I want to know how many school buses are going to be stopping here and how those kids are going to get across the street. Just by regular school bus, blinking red lights, no pullovers, no, just cross Quincy. Just like any other street. I'm asking.
but I think that his point is the fair housing, the oversight of fair housing, the impact it would have on us as a board. I think that's probably beyond the purview of what we should be discussing this evening.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, I do understand the logistical question, which is, how many school buses would be necessary to pick up the children. I would guess you're probably not gonna see more than one bus per age group.
You mean like one for elementary, one for the senior high school?
Well, you're definitely going to have one for each age group.
Sure.
It seems unlikely you would have more than one, because they would simply, if there winds up being that many school-age children, they're gonna redistribute how they pick people up. They're gonna get them all in one shot.
Let's let Chris take a,
Yeah, so I just, touching on this topic a little bit, so the town does have the figures of both school age and age children that these types of developments produce, and we're very accurate with that. To Mr. Haverty's point, we would fully recommend the board not base their decision on that information. But we do have those figures. We do actively track that with all new housing developments. In relation to the site plan and the, the school bus access, one of our comments and what we've done in most of these projects, since school buses are not able to access private property, we do recommend, that's an off-site improvement, we do try to have developers implement some accommodation for off-site school buses, whether that's a pull-off or just some amenity space for the school children to congregate. Again, we can kind of try to look at, coordinate with the school department to see what that traffic would look like for school buses and what an appropriate accommodation would be in their opinion, but we can look into that information. We generally just say that, leave it very vague, that it's some accommodation be provided for that purpose.
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay, great. Sir?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I just wanted to answer the member's question before we moved on to other topics. So for future plans, if we give graphical materials, we'll make sure those elevations are on there. But the finished floor elevation of the building is part of the grading plan, which is in the members' packages. To answer the question, it's elevation 383.5. The elevation of Quincy at the lower entrance, the southerly entrance, is about 383, so the building is generally even with the southerly entrance of Quinsigamond. As it continues down into the Main Street intersection, the topography continues to go down towards Gouch Park, in which case we will have a transition driveway on the north entrance that brings the elevation again up to 383.5 for the building. So all of that information is on the full site design plans. If we do any graphics for future meetings, we'll make sure that it's on there. But I just wanted to make reference to the members that it is in the files for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Who would like to go first with questions? Megan, you want to go?
Sure. I made notes as I was going through, so give me a minute here. I guess you referenced that loading area flex space at the front, which, as I understand, the buses can't pull in to the parking spot, right? So that would just be for loading or ride shares or anything. Is any consideration given to adding a second one on the opposite side of the building? I know that would reduce parking, but it's a fairly long distance from somebody to load in here and then truck all the way across. Or would there be spaces in the garage for that purpose on each level?
We have a full-time leasing staff that's on site. Part of their responsibilities is coordinating move-ins, move-outs. Most of the move-ins are not conducted with a van. I don't think we've ever had a moving truck other than our own furniture when we're starting to open the building.
Right.
So that's their responsibility, and what they typically do, if they have someone who's moving in, it's scheduled, they have people there to help them if it's needed. They'll cone off a space specific, which is closest to that person's point of access to the building, to their apartment.
Yep.
So we prefer to do it within the existing, not creating more
Sure.
impervious surface if we can.
Okay. And then, you did mention the transformers in the front of the building, that they will be screened once you determine how many are needed and everything, which I think will be really important. Same with the trash in the back corner as well.
Screened to the extent Selco will allow us to
Yes.
screen them, in that they have specific requirements for clearances on all sides. So
Absolutely. Yep.
whatever we can do there, we will do.
Understood. I might reserve some questions until we hear some more discussion, but I think that covers a couple of the main ones I've got so far.
Yeah, I'll go next.
Okay.
So, you need a break?
We're going to take a really quick, short break, if you don't mind. Okay?
Problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
5 minutes?
Oh.
Surely.
Don't do that.
We're going to start, continuing our conversations. We're going to turn it over to Ann for some discussion points.
So I was wondering about the trash management situation. Is there only going to be the dumpster, or will there be like collection rooms within the building? Can someone talk about that?
Right now, do we have trash storage rooms up at the Merrick?
We do, but they're not utilized. People just bring their trash. So.
It will probably be.
I'm sorry, what did he say? People bring it to the dumpster?
Typically, yeah.
From that side all the way over?
There's different programs that we've looked at and done. Sometimes you have trash valet. Some places they're not allowed. Other places you can have them, but you can't charge for them. So it's all different things that the management company will look at and address to keep the building clean and avoid any problems.
What is trash valet?
They literally come through the building on a set schedule. They pick up your trash. It's in a color-coded bag. They take it to the dumpster. They take it to the recycling center, and they deliver it. And it's amazing the number of people that want trash valet, just as they like Uber Eats and everything else. So it's a neat feature. Whether or not it'll be implemented, we'll look at it. But the goal is to keep the building immaculate. So we don't want anything stored inside if we can avoid it.
Yeah, because I think that is a concern, because it's such a long distance from the farthest apartment to the dumpster. I would think that not everyone would comply with, the idea that you're gonna keep your, bring your trash to the dumpster every time you have a full bag. So, just,
So we're saying that the people bring their own trash all the way down to that dumpster? Well, I don't like that one bit. I think that's not good.
I would
I
just,
mean, that's a haul.
all right, let's, I have no idea, this might be, and we're getting a little bit off topic here, but I have a couple kids that live in New York, in Brooklyn, and they all live in very nice buildings, and they have, at the end of their hall, just a metal thing that you throw your trash in. It seems like a great way to manage trash to me. I'm not,
We'll look at the best and most efficient way to manage the
please.
trash. We'll probably wind up with trash rooms.
Mhm.
We'll probably wind up with trash chutes.
right.
But we will try to limit the amount of trash that stays in the building, because it's just not the best way to manage it. So
Sure.
whether it goes to the trash room individually or by service, it will be something that will be taken out in the building.
I'd like
that's
to
good,
see
because
that.
I also am interested in making sure that everything's, accessible for folks with physical disabilities.
Sure.
Okay.
Well,
Another
I had
good point.
We can get back to you with how that gets
Thank
handled.
you. And this is completely different, okay, but when we were talking about stormwater management, one of the slides that you have, there was a big red dot, and I think it had something to do with drainage and stormwater management. Yes, that one. So is there a catch basin there, or why is that significant to?
There is a catch basin there. That is the point of entry for the runoff from that site into the municipal system.
Okay, thank you. I'll defer the rest of my questions at this point.
Okay. All right, I have a couple. You talked about early on in your presentation, the stacking of vehicles on North Quincy. And I guess given all of the activities that occur on this site with the high school, with UMass, with all of that, I don't even know that there's an answer to my question, but I just would be remiss if I didn't mention that I think the stacking of vehicles could go all the way back to Route 9 if you don't manage that somehow. So,
You referring to stacking in the public way?
yes,
Sure.
yeah.
If I might, I think some of those issues as far as queue lengths are dealt with in the traffic impact assessment report filed by Vanessa and Associates. I think we're scheduled to do that at our next meeting. I think Jeffrey Dirk is really the author of that report, and he can weigh in, but I think it's certainly fair game for discussion at the next meeting, so.
Fair. I would also comment about the multi-space, flex space. It just doesn't seem adequate to me, given the environment we live in with Ubers and God knows what other services they'll dream up that we will be partaking in. But that just seems short-sighted to me from your perspective. I would mention that. The 17 banked parking spaces, could you just tell me where they are? I wasn't following that when you were describing. It's back near the recycling.
The two orange.
Right, so if you look at the screen, right near the recycling, the shaded areas.
Yep.
Right there.
Okay, got it.
And the reason part of those were chosen as the location is, as I mentioned during the presentation, working with the fire department, they wanted the ability to turn the truck around in that location, is that it would help if we didn't have parking back there, it just gave them extra room if they needed it for maneuverability. They could have it, or we could design it in there for them.
All right, on the vein of the fire access, how are you going to limit vehicles from traversing the fire aisle behind the building?
So my first line of defense is signage, authorized vehicle only, no entry. We don't want to overly sign it. But then I would say the second line of defense, I'll turn to the owner. He will talk about property management and oversight, making sure that doesn't happen. Right?
Management company, obviously there's cameras all over the buildings if anybody uses it. But we could look at a breakaway gate. We could look at any number of features that we could put there that would at least cause people not to want to drive their car through it just because they want to be a joker.
Yeah, it almost seems like, you know, I always believe circular movement helps people move, and it just seems obvious to me that that's gonna be something you're gonna have to manage. I'm not really concerned about it, but I just, again, feel remiss if I didn't mention that I think that's gonna be a potential problem down the road.
Understood. You know, should breakaway gates or bollards, removable bollards, something like that be amenable, I would just want to say we need to just review it with the fire department. We need to make sure that whatever goes in there to impede residents from going back to the fire department is okay, you know, for their general access.
Okay. The heavy greenery that occurs on Main Street is remaining. So what we see will stay there.
That is part of the state layout, so that is staying.
Okay.
We would, and that's part of our, we hope to meet with Mass DOT about, we would like to clean that up.
Right.
We would like to take some of the underbrush out, take the trash out, take it from being a dumping ground and make it better looking. But we have to get permission from the state.
Good luck.
We're gonna pursue that.
Yeah, yeah, that could use some spiffing up for sure. And again, could you just reiterate where the location is for the extra snow that you discussed? Is it back near the dumpster area?
So Madam Chair, we didn't designate it on the plan. It was one of the engineering comments that they would like us to mark those locations, which we will do. You know, obviously out back near the dumpster is the first point that we would look at, because there's no access back there. We have excess spaces, as we're indicating by the notion of banked parking or reserved parking. So we would likely highlight some areas there, maybe some additional snow shelves along the roadway that accesses the garage, between the garage entry driveway and the Main Street woodlands that you were just referring to, and maybe the shoulders of the fire access road. It is limited for sure. So there are certainly capacity accommodations that we will need to deal with, the owner will need to deal with as part of the property management.
I think that's.
I have some more, if I may.
Sure, Fran.
What about the icing chemical? When we talk about aquifer protection overlay, what about the icing chemicals? What's going to happen there when they all run into the ground in your porous areas? Yeah, salt. Don't we use salt or something like that for ice and control, right? How do we protect the aquifer from absorbing all that lovely salt? I would like to see perhaps maybe some groundwater monitoring wells in strategic locations so that we could see how the aquifer is being protected. We can monitor what's in it. I think that'd be a great thing to add to this. I mean, I came from the Cape. They bombed their water supply down there. I don't want to see us bomb this one up here. Not literally bomb it, but you know what I mean. So that's something I think the board should consider.
Attorney Donahue?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At least in analogous situations in which a fair amount of impervious area has been created in the aquifer protection for commercial or industrial use, there are conditions of approval as to the nature of material that can be used for de-icing, those type of things. And we can certainly review those and think about imposing those as conditions here in that fashion. Monitoring would be problematic because the sources become very difficult when you're checking on groundwatering. So that would need some careful consideration. But it is a situation that the planning staff has dealt with previously in the Zone 2. And I think we can certainly bring some good protection to that operationally.
Not satisfied with that.
Okay. Well, we have this going to go on for a while, so
Yeah,
we can
I
table
mean,
that,
I'm just
but that's
saying.
fair. Yeah,
That's where I stand right now
okay,
on that issue.
sure, fair. Any other questions?
I just have a Couple more. So I took a quick look at the Graves report this afternoon, and there are a lot of issues spotted in there. If we're trying to focus today on stormwater, I assume that the team will take a look at the recommendations and address each one of them, so we could talk about them for next time. Like, it's referencing different ponds, 2P and 5P, and, some things that Graves would like to.
Sure.
Yeah.
What we would hope for the opportunity is to have a discussion with Mr. McGoldrick and Mr. Walsh on specific points, talk about solutions rather than just parrying back and forth opinions of engineers as to what's the right thing, and present in some fashion a unified document from that as to what we've agreed to for either modifications of the plan, conditions of approval, with points that we still need further work on. And we would hope to achieve that, well before the September meeting. I wouldn't want to promise it for August, but.
Okay, thank you. And so one of the issues that's noted in that is that the town has to submit some things to DEP, and then things will flow from that. But I'm just wondering, when does the town expect the response from DEP? I guess that's probably for staff.
Yes, I don't have that timeline with me this evening, but I'm happy to get that and
Okay.
and provide that to the board.
Do we think it would be within a month or 2 months? I'm just mindful of, that we have a finite date on what we have to do here for this appellant. Do we think it would come in soon enough?
Again, I don't have that date,
Okay.
but I just want to make sure that I'm accurate, but I will get that information and set that expectation.
Through the chair, if I may, to the member's question, are you focusing on, for example, the issues with regard to the sewer pump station at Holden Street?
Yes.
It very well may be that entire process, which has been going on for a while already, will not be completed within this timeline. Obviously, our plan calls on being able to access the pump station, which is subject to a state administrative consent order, and therefore there are limitations on the town's ability to do that. So it's gonna have to get resolved, but I'm not sure it doesn't have to get resolved as part of this process. There is no alternative. We're not proposing an alternative of going into an in-ground system in any fashion. So the timing will be whatever it takes for the state to finally act on it.
Thanks.
One more?
Sure.
I noticed in the plans, I think I noticed that somebody did soil borings, correct?
Yes.
Could the board see those results? I'd like to see them. In interest of full disclosure, I'm a professional geotechnical engineer retired, and I'd like to see those soil borings if I could.
And you still dabble?
Did Goldberg Antonio do it?
I'm sorry?
GZA do it?
No, GZA did not do it. We had Northeast Geotechnical did it. And there is some of the soil testing information is in the engineering plan set already. We included the test pits pertinent to the drainage, so you have something to play with tonight if you'd like, and we could take a look at what the boring information is and provide that. Forgive me, I'm talking without answering. We may have included the geotechnical in.
There you go.
In here for you to keep dabbling.
That is all on record with the town. That was filed. That information was filed a while ago. It may not have reached your inbox.
That's fine. I'd just like to take a look. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for.
It's all there for you.
It's in there for you.
All right, thank you. I'll
Got
take
it.
a look later on. Sorry, Mary Beth.
No, that's a good question. That's your field of expertise, so that's
Thank
good,
you.
good to ask the question. Okay, any other comments, questions? Megan?
Don't think I have any at this time.
Well, I just want to comment that I think everyone did a great job of staying on topic. It's hard in these to not go off in tangents, but I think you did a great job
I'll
of
lose it.
keeping it, tight. So, do we have any further suggestions, Mr. Haverty, Chris, Louise, on anything else that we should be thinking about tonight before we continue the hearing?
So we'll still have to take public comment. I think in terms of process, we have that agenda of topics that is laid out, so traffic would be next. Given this is one of the first topical hearings, typically we're still kind of collecting peer review and digesting all that information. So, we'll likely have another, site civil to clean up these items. Again, agreeing with Attorney Donahue that we'll come together in the meantime and develop some unified documents that will consolidate that discussion, hopefully, so.
Thank you. Okay. All right, this is, yes.
Madam Chair, I just would note, you do have your peer review consultant here. I don't know if you wanted to hear from him.
Sure.
Before you finish.
If you would like, we're ready to hear from anyone.
Now he's got a bill.
Yeah, now there you go.
That started a
He
long
was
time
waiting.
ago. Thank you. For the record, my name is Jeff Walsh. I'm with Graves Engineering, the board's peer reviewer. Certainly work on other projects in town, on behalf of the planning board as well. I'm very familiar with the area, grew up in the area, and live near the area now. So anyways, that said, I did personally visit the site on July 22nd. Okay. I did personally visit the site on July 22nd. We're charged with reviewing for general civil engineering. So that includes conformance with the applicable engineering issues associated with zoning bylaws, the other town regulations that have now, as 40B, become part of the process with this board. Stormwater management, we review for compliance with the Mass DEP stormwater management regulations and standards. Quite frankly, when I do a peer review, whether it's for a non-40B or a 40B, I look at the engineering aspects of the project. I try to look at, are there fatal flaws with the engineering concept or what's being proposed? Then I get into the more detailed things. In other words, if it's a engineering program for development on the right path, but there's a lot of death by 1,000 cuts, is there such a situation here? I can report to the board that I don't see fatal flaws or anything as such. Quite frankly, the comments in our letter, I feel, are addressable by the applicant's team, and it may take coordination with town staff and other boards and so forth. But as we're all aware, it's a very densely developed site if it were to be built. Land area is such that the density is driven by the fact that they went vertical, not just with the residential building, but with the parking garage as well. That said, I'd like to just speak very briefly on a few points in my letter that I'd like to just highlight to the board without getting into every little detail. First, comment number one with respect to parking. Town zoning bylaw requires 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit for multifamily dwellings and sufficient parking for visitors and employees, so something to that effect. So it's not 1.5 period, spaces per dwelling unit period, it's 1.5 plus. They're proposing to build out just over 1.5 spaces by about 3 spaces, if I remember correctly. And they're banking or allocating space for 17 more. All well and good, but what I'd like to do with something like this is the Institute of Traffic Engineers has data associated with parking. It's called the Parking Generation Manual. Our office has an older version, but it's pretty comprehensive compared to the one before that, version before that. But anyways, it's an older version in that it's only 2019. Newer version came out in 2023, I learned today, sorry. But nevertheless, the proposed parking that they're intending to construct meets the 85th percentile of the parking demand for the type of use this would be, which is a mid-rise, suburban, urban, multifamily, not within a half mile of rail transit. The Grafton Station's over a mile away. The Worcester Station's over a mile away. So that being said, 85th percentile means that 85% of the time that the parking demand is that number of spaces or less. And 85th percentile is often used in and other statistics, especially with vehicle speeds. And nevertheless, I'm satisfied with the parking, the fact that they're proposing basically 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit and allocating space for another 17 more. But I will caution the board that after that, I don't see any real estate for much of anything else, including snow storage, unless they acquire that piece of land the town owns that's along Main Street, which currently is being used by the facility operator. So anyways, I wanted the board to understand my thought process behind evaluating parking. Number two, with respect to short-term parking, I feel some people are gonna wanna throw the trash in the trunk, drive by the dumpster, stop and throw it in. So I think there should be some parking spaces for that, very temporary. And after hearing tonight's discussion, and I was on the fence about how many loading spaces, I'm in agreement that it's probably gonna need more than one loading space out front for the same purpose. Those quick hits with FedEx, UPS, Uber, and the ride shares. Okay. Next comment, number three, when we get to waiver requests, I'd be glad to share any concerns I have. As of right now, I have no engineering concerns that jump out at me. But nevertheless, as 40B discussions and review evolve, sometimes I've been experiencing sometimes a night of waiver discussions where they'll get into the nitty-gritty and the engineering basis behind some of the waiver requests. Moving on to number 8, with respect to hydrology, we look at the methodology used, not just the computer program and the software. Nowadays, everybody uses essentially the same computer-based software, but more importantly, it's based on a modeling that was put out in the 80s, and that's the important part. And I won't bore you with the variables, but we see it all the time, not only the software, but certainly the modeling methodology. But I look at the analysis points, pre-development conditions, post-development conditions. The comments that we have, number 9 and number 10 that follow, they're very minor comments to address. It's basically, the modeling worked, but a few pieces of data didn't get transcribed onto the plans. That means a contractor wouldn't be building the right outlet control structure. Easy to fix, easy to fix. But nevertheless, the methodology followed standard practices. We looked at the input data, the output data, things like, is there the same land area pre-development, post-development? Was the ground covers properly modeled, both pre-development, post-development, and so on and so forth. And likewise with the stormwater handbook. Mass DEP stormwater handbook talks to 10 standards. One of them is pre-development rate versus post-development rate. We're satisfied, except for a couple of small things, I believe, that they're providing the necessary reduction in peak rates, treatment, recharge, construction phase monitoring, long-term operation and maintenance, and that kind of documentation. And so from the respect of Mass DEP and general engineering for the hydrology and stormwater, I'm satisfied. With respect to the aquifer overlay, they are providing what I feel is requisite treatment to protect the watershed, or consistent with Mass DEP, I should say. They are reducing runoff volumes in the post-development condition compared to the pre. The data in the hydrology speaks to surface water runoff. So whatever doesn't run off the site as surface water infiltrates the ground. There's no modeling for evaporation or anything like that. But the point is, granted, the site is not an undeveloped pasture or an undeveloped piece of woods. The runoff volumes are higher than they would be because it's a gravel area with some woods and so forth. But they are improving the hydrologic conditions by recharging more water with the post-development conditions and the 3 recharge systems that they have. And the soil information submitted supported the soil information they submitted supported the design of the subsurface systems. I was satisfied. And I am a soil evaluator, by the way, so I do go through and look at the information and And sometimes I'm called out to either perform or witness that type of testing as well. Okay. And that's where I would like to leave it for tonight. So with respect to the amount of impervious cover in the Aquifer Protection District, they certainly exceed 15% by a lot. But because of the improvements they're making in stormwater recharge and addressing the quality of that recharge water, I'm satisfied with what's been put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard? Please, you could step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Mary Dion, 323 North Sig. In fact, could you show the slide with, I'm in a butter, so I'd like to see where I'm located there. I'm sorry I couldn't make
That's okay.
the June meeting.
Yep.
With your questions about the runoff in the catch basin, it floods currently. And we get a flood there and ice, so there's gonna have to be some kind of maintenance built up there. That was the red
Could you
dot.
pull up the, there is a slide that shows the abutters distance?
Sure. I have reviewed the letters on the website from the fire department, the school, the police, sewer and water, and it seems like there's a lot that would need to be done to make this work properly. And I'm assuming that would be done.
Okay.
So which one, I'm at 323.
Can I take a picture of that slide? Absolutely.
Do you know, I couldn't see what the numbers are there.
Through the chair, I
Yes.
apologize, I don't know which property 323 is.
I'm looking.
How come the two houses on the end are noted? Like, there's a house here and there's another house right next to me, right in these trees.
Through the chair to the
Yes.
question that sort of arose.
Yes.
We will document all of the properties and add all of the dimensions. We wanted this slide to be an indication that we are aware of the comment and we will provide the dimensions that we're asked for. So if we're missing
Thank you.
the abutters' homes or the ones that are not there, we'll make sure they're on there.
In the entrance, is it across from Lear Street, the main entrance?
No, so again,
it's-
through the chair, if I may.
So we need
Thank you.
to,
So, but the entrances are directly on Quinsigamon, so they're not opposite in intersection, they're opposite the other
right, North
properties.
Quinsigamon. So
North
I'm trying to
Quinsigamon.
figure out if
I
it's gonna be
apologize.
directly across from me. At the information session, you had said you were gonna be more down towards 290, further down, toward the 290 bridge, which, right now, the entrance is across from Lear Street. And is the flow of traffic gonna be, they're gonna go inside one entrance and out the other?
So that's going to get covered. Our next meeting is going to revolve totally around traffic.
Traffic.
I would
Well, that's-
highly recommend that you come to that meeting because there's going to be a lot of discussion around that. And I would ask that perhaps we have a better visual for next meeting on where the abutters are in relation to the site plan. So we hear you on that.
Okay, I'll be here. I have a question. In August 2022, it was proposed 190 units. How did it get to be 300? I think at 190, it said it was friendly 40B, but at 300, it seems to be hostile, I believe.
So, so the prior proposal was a different development group. They were still pursuing the 40B process, but they were pursuing a friendly 40B, which would simply means they negotiate a LIP agreement with the select board prior to their project eligibility at the state level, so.
I thought it might have something to do with the size of the apartments. Is the 40B going to be for the lifetime of the building, or just for the initial people coming in?
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes, it has to be in.
For the lifetime of the building?
Yes, it is.
The same number?
25% of the units have to be affordable. The state monitors it. The housing, the local housing also gets a report on it as well. It's forever.
From now to, okay, because I've lived in this area for over 60 years, so I've seen it all.
Yep. No, it's a fair question.
290 and.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that they are required to continue with that for perpetuity. So,
And the points I wanted to make were, Shrewsbury High School's right there, St. John's, there's 2 daycares, there's a medical surgery, and there's a medical buildings. So I know next meeting is traffic, but it's a major, I've seen, I started to review the traffic analyst assessment that came in, and there's like 10 building projects that are gonna be going on, so the needed improvements of the road need to be done, whether, you know, when at the information session, it was, well, the state will have to do that, or somebody, it's got to get done in order for this to fly and work.
and I do think that will be covered at next, and I'm not putting it
Yep,
off in
nope,
any
that's
way,
fine.
but I understand your concerns, I think they do as well, and we'll have a lot to discuss at next meeting.
And I know there's a pool, but no playground area for the children living there.
Yep, Mr. Cullen?
Our goal is to have just green open space to play. We don't anticipate building a playground, but the courtyard will be wide open, it'll be an area to play. Building a structure, it seems like, I mean, I just went by 3 of them on Route 9 on the way here, and they're sitting empty.
Well-
Whereas if there's more green space where a kid can toss a ball, play wiffle ball, it seems to reach a better result.
It's also when it's high 90s. I wouldn't take my granddaughter out in this heat to go to, and she loves to go to the playground.
Mm.
But I'm thinking, you know, no swings or monkey bars for those younger kids. You know, we don't want to see them wandering into the street.
Yeah, we're chasing a different audience. We are looking at, and we're working with town management on upgrading Gouch Park. And we've kicked around a few different ideas, and we hope to be back to the town management team with that in the next month of how we're gonna improve Gouch Park and make that a better asset for the neighborhood as well as for us.
Because it is a small area, and it's not something you'd want your kids you won't want them crossing that street.
Well, in relation to the heat and your ability to take your grandkids, these are, there's going to be almost pushing 10,000 square feet of clubhouse within the building. And that typically has yoga rooms, workspaces, leasing spaces, and then a full gym. And we do find, and crazy as it might seem, the number of people that are coming to our properties, a large number of them are retirees. And they actually use the fitness facilities more than anyone. And the issue about the trash, many people use the halls to do their evening walks because it's climate controlled, it's level, they're protected, they're secure. So it is kind of an amenity, just walking down, it's your own interior climate controlled. So I think when we get to that point, we're happy to have Clay Smoot come back and explain about some of the amenities. But we don't anticipate building a playground.
Okay. During the months of April and May, the lake is used for crew throughout New England, colleges, and currently, everybody parks on both sides of the street. The police try to monitor it, but they're unable to. That side of the road, I don't know how that will be getting addressed during those months.
I think that's a traffic thing that definitely should be
Okay.
noted, I agree. That is an issue.
I mean, the lake has been used, and with the drain water, you rest assured, nothing will be going into the lake, because the lake has taken a lot of abuse over the past few years.
I didn't say that. What I did say is there's a reduction in the volume that's being discharged, and likewise, there's a reduction in the peak rates. And there's certainly more stormwater management infrastructure proposed with the new development than what exists at the site today. Yep.
Okay, so it sounds like mostly everything. And so the fire truck tower 1 can fit in there, because I know that was an issue. that the fire trucks couldn't get in. And we've accommodated that.
Yes.
Could you confirm that?
Through the chair, we have been working with the fire department to make sure Tower 1 can get through the site in both locations, yes.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, is the entrance, is it an entrance in and an entrance out?
So both driveway entrances allow in and out.
Yes.
Yes, so it's not bi-directional, you don't enter into one and leave through the other or vice versa. You can
Because
go
I
in and
can't
out.
really see how the flow of traffic is there.
That's next month.
Okay.
I don't mean to keep pushing it down, but it's true, it is
All
next
right,
month.
yep, okay, all right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just from a site civil perspective, the greatest number of parking spaces is in the parking garage, which I would envision more people than not would use the southern entrance to enter and exit the site to get to the parking garage, than use the northern entrance and have to get through the on-site driveway to get to the parking garage. So, as a non-traffic engineer, I envision that you're probably gonna hear next month that more traffic enters and exits the site from the southern entrance away from Main Street and the intersection of Main Street and North Quinsigamond.
It's all gonna be on North Quinsigamond.
It's all gonna be
It's
on
a-
North Quinsigamond, absolutely.
Which, North Quinsigamond Ave, you can't go down North Quinsigamond Ave at certain times of the day.
Understood.
From 7:15 to about 8:30, and from 3:15 to 5:30. It's backed up. The neighbors down the street, they were saying, and it's all back down, halfway down the road. So
That's
if you're gonna-
traffic.
I know. That's a major,
Questions?
major concern.
I understand.
You don't want anyone getting killed out there.
No, I understand, for sure.
I've seen my share of accidents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come to the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Name and address for the record, please.
Susan Hyder, 327 North Quinsinemond Ave. So I believe I heard that you will have 24/7 management at the units?
It may not be 24/7, but it will be full-time,
Okay,
which is the business hours.
business hours, all right. The trash valet, will that be free? Or will that be a charge?
We don't know if we'll do that or not.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking.
If you want to move in, I can put you in touch with the leasing company.
Name on the list.
We have
Well,
to get through the traffic
It's
first.
funny you mention it, because I lived at Berry Farms in North Andover, a very, very nice place, but they had to exchange their dumpsters every day because there was so much trash and so much recycling going in. And it was a haul to haul it. You know, I lived on the third floor, bring it down the elevator, halfway across the parking lot. Anyway, my other questions are more recreation. You know, what are you gonna do if you have like 50 teenagers hanging around on a Friday night? You know,
They wouldn't be allowed in the building.
so they're just gonna hang around in an open space? I mean, you know, I'm just concerned, I work at a preschool, I'm concerned that there's really no playthings for the children to play on, and then teenagers, there's really, maybe the gym, but there's really not a lot of thought into what the young people are going to do with their time, other than free open space.
Through the chair, I can talk to our leasing team, see what they have for ideas, and report back to you, see what is out there. We really don't see many school-age kids. You know, the properties are very, very well managed. You will find that people do use the gym. They love the gym. They love the yoga studios. They love the outdoor pool. So those areas do get used. The benefit is that they are highly monitored, so the behavior is very strictly adhered to. So you don't have, you know, nobody's going to be skateboarding in the halls or in the pool area or in the yoga studio. But it's done for the benefit of the tenants. All the modern apartment buildings, your key fob systems control who can go to what floor, so that you don't have strangers in your hallway. It also limits where they can go on the main floor. I think if you have lived or toured a modern, fully elevated, with amenities building, I think you'll find they're very enjoyable, and they're very well managed, so there are not problems. And I can't envision anybody ever having 50 kids at any of these facilities.
Okay, we'll see.
I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. I think that we have gotten to where we need to be. All right. Everyone ready? Continue the meeting?
The only comment I would make, Madam Chair, is while traffic is the focus at next meeting, we would hope to have time to get some of the board's input with regard to the waiver requests, which is pending. Some of those are important to the development, and don't necessarily fall in a box of either civil or traffic and the like. So we just begin dialogue at some point on those.
Chris, you'll make sure we have that. Okay, that's fair. Sure.
So I just wanted to make one comment. Taking into account the residents' concerns about potential lack of activities for younger kids and middle school and high school kids, there will be a few. We know that. That's going to be what's going to happen. So I would be interested in a future meeting if you could provide some more information, specific information about what the amenities will be, if you have diagrams or specifics. And I also note that I was a little bit confused because on the picture of the retaining wall, there appears to be a playground on top of that. So I thought that there would be a playground, but, so if you could just address that, that would be
Just
great.
to clarify, as Phil noted, those were just images that he put in there to show the wall, that we are not doing a playground.
I understand that now, but the
We
picture would.
we can look at, we'll bring back to you a full presentation on the amenities if you'd like. It's not typically something that the zoning board deals with. So I don't know if it's the best, but we'll give you a quick presentation on, if you'd like, on trash and amenities.
I think that would be helpful.
It's nothing the ZBA really rules on, but would be great to give you a quick piece on that when we meet.
Thank you.
And we can also, if you'd like, a little bit information on how a property's managed.
That would be good.
Okay.
And just in terms of the waiver requests, we have those in our packet, but you're gonna chunk them out into,
So the waiver requests have been provided, and they're in the materials that are provided to the board. We're still going through those and reviewing them for appropriateness. We'll issue a letter similar to our comment letter specifically on those waiver requests.
Okay.
So it'll show the waiver request, the information that was provided by the applicant, and then our department's recommendations related to that.
great, okay.
I did review the waiver list earlier today, and a lot of the requests are more procedural than they are substantive.
Mhm.
So it's not really as big an ask as it seems at first glance.
Got it, I wanna make sure we're not missing anything, but thank you for that. Okay, yes,
Would you like to add that to the September 29th
yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
Would that be, just to have it on the schedule for now,
He's requesting for next month, is that
for
correct?
next month? With traffic?
Wherever it fits, as far as
Okay.
the board's concerned. I do think that, as usual, in the process, that's pretty consistent with all projects in town, there's some working meetings with staff and the developer and our consultants, and certainly a board member or two, if they want to participate, is a helpful way to move this process along, and I would anticipate that before we get together the next time, we will have had that meeting with Ms. O'Neill and Mr. McGoldrick in some fashion to keep the process going. But at some point, they need to hear from you too, and if that's, once they get a submittal to you, then that's great.
Okay. Okay, that's a fair ask. All right, any other comments, questions before we continue the hearing? Okay,
Motion to continue?
can I get a motion to continue, please?
I make a motion to continue.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry, just to the,
Oh, to a date specific. Could you,
August
request,
25th.
August 25th.
so you need
I'm
to.
sorry?
You need to, motion to continue to a date specific, so it's August 25th, so continue
Oh,
the
I'm
hearing to
sorry,
August
motion
25th.
to continue to August 25th, 2025.
Thank you. Second?
At 7 PM.
6,
Thank you.
7.
Or sorry, 6 PM.
Can the record reflect that change? Are we good procedurally? Okay,
6 p.m.
fair. All right.
You all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right, heading into the home stretch of this
Don't
meeting.
run off with that geotech. I want to see it.
We want cookies and a geotech at the door.
We're not done.
We're not done. Fran, we're not done yet. We have one more new business. Okay, last on our agenda, this is new business. This is discuss and authorize the chair to sign the MHP 40B technical assistance packet. I have it in my, right here. I've already signed it. And is there any more information we need to hear on that? I understand what it is, but anything beyond that? Okay, great. All right, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're good. Thank you very much.
Good night.